KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
Triple-digit temps, gusty winds, and low humidity, a recipe for devastating wildfires.
Our response, no matter what the condition, is a rapid response.
Guy Gifford with the Department of Natural Resources says no matter how hot it gets, fire crews will work around the clock to protect homes and property.
We actually started talking about this on Saturday with the firefighters and making sure they started the hydration process, drinking lots of water, not just during the day, but the night before when they get home from work.
Fire crews are also trained to recognize the stages of heat exhaustion.
Don't forget, the temperature of 100 degrees is in the shade. Our guys are usually not in the shade and in the sun, so they're in much higher temperatures than what we see on the thermometer. So that's very, very concerning to us. And the key thing is we also remind them, watch out for each other. If you see your buddy stop sweating, that's a concern.
Gifford says firefighters may get more frequent breaks. However,
we're not necessarily shorting their day per se.
Fire officials are asking everyone to be careful because in these conditions, it only takes a spark.
Everything is bone dry. Be aware of anything can start a spark or that's hot that touches dry grass, dry material. Key thing is your vehicles, your catalytic converters, even chains. Make sure your chains aren't dragging on your trailers.
In Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News. Just before 7 tonight, roads reopened and people were allowed to go back home as those evacuations were lowered to a level 1 or get ready. The Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Chief says aircraft played a huge role in containing this fire, which threatened hundreds of homes. Just before 3 this afternoon, the entire town of Athol was told to evacuate.
We have an active evacuation group who are evacuating people and homes as we speak.
Sheriff's deputies shut down roads and several highways as winds pushed the Sarah Loop fire north.
And obviously we've got people that, like I said earlier, are in the evacuation zone who are trying to get home, get pets, get children, get people, and get back out.
Firefighting planes and helicopters swarm the area, protecting homes and property.
That's probably honestly what was able to save this so quickly, is that we were able to pull all the air resources that were already in the air and flying over at Ridge Creek.
In the triple-digit heat, many people found shelter at Real Life Ministries Church.
Whenever there's a need, people rise up. That's just, North Idaho is great.
Jim Blazin is the pastor here. His congregation had a full taco bar ready to feed hundreds of people.
A lot of people that we know that have been displaced, animals, dogs, cats, and so we're just open the doors and we're prepared to serve people.
The Sarah Loop fire burned approximately 60 acres. While no injuries have been reported, at least one structure was lost.
One outbuilding or shop, don't know exactly how to describe it, lost, but there weren't any houses. And I want to credit the firefighters for doing a great job on that. I mean, we had 520 some houses in the direct path of this fire. So to think, or 525 structures. So to think that, the possibilities, we only lost one small shop, that's pretty incredible.
And tonight, officials are not sure what caused this fire. That will be the focus of an investigation in the days to come. Reporting in Athol tonight, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Skies are hazy here today in Athol, likely from the wildfire that sparked right here in town yesterday. And while smoke may still be lingering, firefighters were able to squash most of the large threats from the Sarah Loop fire. That fire is currently under investigation as man-caused. Highway 54 running through downtown Athol is busy Wednesday, with cars driving in both directions. A different scene from Tuesday, when most cars in Athol were headed in one direction, out.
Fire behavior increased very rapidly as we got on scene, and the first action was to evacuate.
Just before 3 p.m. Tuesday, a wildfire ignited near Athol. Josh Delamarian with Timberlake Fire says flames came within 15 feet of some Athol homes. Only one shed and RV were lost.
The homes that the division that I was in charge of for structure protection, a lot of them had some very good defensible space. It really helped us get in there to be safe and combat what we could to protect that structure.
First responders across Kootenai County helped fight off flames. De La Marion says air resources from the Ridge Creek fire burning 15 miles away in Hayden also supported firefighting efforts.
Very thankful that we had that many resources close by to help us on this and get it contained and checked really quickly.
Within 4 hours, firefighters gained control of the fire. 7 p.m. Tuesday, evacuations downgraded to level 1 before lifting Wednesday morning. As you just heard, creating defensible spaces played a large role in preventing a lot of potential damage from yesterday's fire. Timberlake Fire encourages homeowners to trim tree branches that are near structures and monitor dry fuels like grass and pine needles that are around the home. In Athol, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
So the same way in the winter, some spots end up with more snow than our official count during a snowstorm. Some spots around the city can end up hotter than our official reading at the Spokane International Airport. One of those spots is downtown here. So I actually talked to the National Weather Service about why that is.
Considering that the airport is about 400 feet higher than downtown, most likely the temperatures are warmer as you get downtown than up in the higher elevation there. And so that could be sometimes 2 or 3 degrees every day.
On top of elevation differences, the amount of concrete, asphalt, and buildings can also make a difference in the heat. So take a look at this map here. It's a heat study Gonzaga did last summer. They found certain neighborhoods are heat islands with more extreme temperatures on hot days. The spots that get particularly hot are downtown, East Central, and between Audubon and Garfield.
Concrete's heating up a lot more than, say, soils and grasses. And so that's kind of your idea of the heat island. And now so you have all this heat in a small area, and it can help, push those temperatures warmer, even the same conditions with different vegetation around it.
Now what's interesting is 100 years ago, Spokane's official temperature reading actually came from downtown Spokane. So we can look at some of those numbers historically to see how this actually plays out. When you average out the 30 years from 1880 to 1946 for July, August, and September, in downtown, the average high temperature was 79.9 degrees. That's just 0.2 degrees higher than those same months in the 30 years from 1947 to 2013 at the airport. That average is 79.7. So when averaging it out over time, not all that significantly different. But when you look at the numbers specifically during heat waves, we do start to see the difference. Downtown reached 100 degrees 62 times, whereas the airport only reached 100 degrees 53 times in their respective 30-year spans. And remember, this data that we're looking at from downtown is from 100 years ago, from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. So in that time, since we've collected that data, there's been more urban development, more buildings, more concrete, more asphalt going into the downtown core, which of course means over time that heat island effect has become more intense. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
All are welcome inside Spokane's Buddhist Institute of Universal Compassion. Compassion central to the teachings here, says Malia Etheridge.
I think Buddhism in a nutshell is being kind to others, all beings, whether it be a person or an animal or a mosquito or an enemy. It's being wisely kind.
But the temple's going through another tough lesson after an organized group hit this weekend. It happened Sunday after services.
2 women came and they knocked on the door on the on-site residence.
Hello. At first, they offered money. I want to make a donation. Asking the guru to go into the temple. Once inside, they had another request.
Meanwhile, another woman was behind the residence trying to get in.
Etheridge believes that was a stakeout that helped the thieves successfully break in 15 minutes later after the guru went for a walk. They were in and out of his residence, along with about $6,000.
Donations. The donations that have been being saved for a new heating and cooling system in the temple.
And it's not the first time this temple has been hit in the same way. Hence, the cameras.
You got it.
A similar theft, same distraction technique and all, cost the temple its first attempt at fundraising for much-needed air conditioning.
They took cash, coins, gold, silver, more than $38,000.
Another hard lesson learned. And because that wise kindness doesn't mean being passive when learning from life's lessons, you may notice some other signs outside the temple.
There's a beautiful Tibetan Mastiff that we love. His name is Senge. I believe that would help.
Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Yeah.
Now it may glitter, but it isn't gold. This is fake gold, but with a convincing enough story behind it, would you buy it? Some pawn shop owners say that's how fake gold is getting into their stores, like here at Axel's Pawn Shop, where they have to break the news that it isn't worth anything. All day long, Axel's Pawn Shop negotiates with potential sellers.
This we definitely want to do because that is definitely vintage.
But owner Doug Carlson says he had to break more hearts than usual this past weekend. Not because he wasn't able to meet someone's asking price, but because what they brought in was worth nothing.
When they came in, I didn't even have to acid test them. I can tell.
Carlson says he noticed an increase in fake gold coming into his store over the last few days. He says the uptick is likely from a recent scam being used across the nation. He says scammers are selling fake jewelry at gas stations and parking lots, telling people they need money for gas to get home or food for their kids.
There'll be crying kids in the car and the mother's all upset and they need diapers and food, for the family. And they're just very, very good at convincing people that they're desperate and they have this valuable stuff.
With over 30 years in the pawn shop business, Carlson says he can usually spot the fakes. For someone with less experience, he says it can be easy to fall for the scam.
A good person wants to help people if they can. And I think that they feel like they're going to profit somehow off of this at the same time.
Just down the street from Axel's, Double Eagle Pawn says someone came in with fake gold as early as today. The manager says he was personally approached by fake gold scammers in Ritzville. He says someone came up to him at the gas station asking for money in exchange for gold. That was 2 years ago. This proves the scam isn't new, but it is a tactic that continues to scam Good Samaritans out of hundreds to thousands of dollars.
If it's too good of a deal to be true, it's too good of a deal to be true.
Spokane police say 2 incidents were reported over the weekend in regards to fake gold scams. Officials say those scammers, if caught, could face a theft charge, but it's likely at this point they've left town and are looking for more victims. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Well, Spokane city and county leaders say the current criminal justice system can no longer keep up with the number of arrests and limited jail space, which is why they say the measure needs to pass now, even though other elected leaders are asking to delay voting on this.
This November, Spokane County voters will decide if they support a 0.2% sales tax increase. Revenue from that increase will fund the construction of a new jail in downtown Spokane. If Measure 1 is approved, 60% of the revenue will be allocated to the county, and 40% will go to the cities and towns in the county. Now, the county plans to use its allocated funds to build a new community correction center behind the current jail and close the Geiger Correction Center.
But we have to start today. We've waited 15 years longer to do this than we should have.
These city and county leaders held a press conference expressing how urgently a new facility is needed.
We are also seeing skyrocketing drug and alcohol addiction and increasing mental health needs. These needs aren't just big needs, they're urgent needs.
Not only would funding for Measure 1 address overcrowding at the jail, Sheriff Knowles says it would also fund wraparound services for those in custody.
A modern criminal justice system holds people accountable while also providing avenues for people to better themselves through education, through receiving therapy to change behavior.
This press conference comes just days after 2 Spokane City Council members asked county commissioners to delay voting on this measure. Council President Lori Kinnear and Councilmember Zach Zappone say they want more time to better plan how the money would be spent by the city before it goes to a vote. While this request came as a surprise to Commissioner Cuney, Spokane Mayor Nadine Woodward said it was not.
We definitely need to move forward. There is an immediacy about responding to public safety in the way that we want to provide, I would say, public safety.
Now, in a statement from City Council member Zach Sapone, he said today's press conference does not change or address any of the concerns raised about Measure 1. He adds this continues to be a $1 billion blank check to government and that voters deserve to have a plan for the city's use of that funding in place. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Vicki Smith faces 3 counts of arson and will likely stay in jail unless she can post a $75,000 bond. For the first time since she was arrested August 10th, Vicki Smith appeared in front of a Spokane County District Judge. She's charged with 3 counts of first-degree arson.
Did knowingly and maliciously cause a fire and explosion located at 3900 West Cliff Drive.
Smith is accused of lighting those 3 fires August 3rd in different spots around Finch Arboretum and Sunset Highway. The blazes prompted level 3 evacuations.
Which fire and explosion were manifestly dangerous to human life.
Judge Fassbender found probable cause to issue an arrest warrant August 9th after Spokane police tied Smith to the fires and handwritten threats to burn Spokane. Witnesses and Smith's own admissions to police about setting the fires to get housing led to her arrest in Tukwila. Smith will stay in jail with a $75,000 bond. She had little to say in court, except to take issue with one condition of her potential bond release.
You said something about have a current address. I have no address.
Well, maintain your location within the county of Spokane.
Okay.
Court records and KREM 2's interview with a witness who saw Smith near the fire scene point to Smith being upset over Spokane's treatment of homeless individuals and a perceived lack of services for them as a reason she set the fires. Smith does have a criminal record in Spokane County. She pleaded guilty back in 2021 to assault and harassment for threatening people with a box cutter. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Everything except for the car he escaped in. Darcy Mason thinks he knows why this fire was so deadly.
It's a tragic. It's unbelievable the damage that it did.
Darcy Mason lived in Spokane for more than 30 years. He moved to Maui recently when he started having health issues. He says the island helped heal him.
Health-wise, it's just tremendous for me. Life changed big time.
Now his life has changed once again. This is the Lahaina home he used to live in.
It was going up so fast that nobody could do anything. You couldn't put water on it.
Mason says on the day of the fire, the town was blasted by strong winds. Being a handyman, he did what he could.
I was running all over Lahaina helping all my friends with their houses because stuff was coming through their windows and roofs were peeling off. And so everybody got out of the storm into the house, and then they didn't know the fire was coming because there was nobody to tell them.
Fortunately, Mason says he saw the fire and watched it grow. He managed to get his friend out of a house, but he couldn't warn everyone.
I'm thinking there was other people that somebody didn't do that for.
The day after the fire, Mason says he slept in his car. Now he's in a shelter.
There is a lot of help coming in. There's more food than you can eat right now.
Mason has set up a GoFundMe. He says donations will help with living costs and replace necessities lost in the fire.
But I was fortunate. I got my car out of there. I lost a few things, my surfboards, a lot of stuff, but I'm not even worried about it. The thing I really lost was Lahaina.
And we'll have a link to that GoFundMe. Just search for this story on KREM.com.
The lawsuit challenges the constitutionality of Idaho's rules, which prevent out-of-state brewers from selling directly to bars, restaurants, and retailers. And it's not the first time Washington breweries have sued a state for the same thing. In Idaho, getting brews from small breweries to retailers is just about this simple. But that's only if your brewery is located in Idaho.
there might not be a discriminatory intent behind these laws, but there's still a discriminatory impact.
Justin Lee co-owns Dwinell Country Ales, a small brewery in Goldendale, Washington. His company, along with Varietal Beer Co. from Sunnyside and 2 Idaho beer enthusiasts, are suing the state of Idaho. They're asking for out-of-state brewers to get the same treatment as those in Idaho.
The right to self-distribute.
Right now, out-of-state producers must go through a wholesaler to sell to bars, restaurants, or retailers. Idaho brewers can self-distribute for free. Chris Baum with Varietal says going through a distributor can complicate things. He's fighting for more control for their small business.
Being able to sort of represent our brand more fully.
And fighting to keep costs lower for their Idaho customers. He says wholesalers often take large chunks of their profit.
We take a big cut, the sort of rule of thumb is 30%.
And we have no bargaining power when we come to the table and the distributor says, we're taking 30%, take it or leave it. And also, they make it really onerous and difficult for a small brewery to get out of that contract.
It's not the first time Washington breweries have sued another state.
I helped organize an almost identical lawsuit we got a bunch of Washington breweries together and we sued the state of Oregon.
Oregon eventually settled and drafted a new law to allow craft brewers to self-distribute. That law takes effect next month. The state of Idaho has yet to respond in court filings, and I also reached out to Attorney General Raul Labrador and the chief of Idaho State Police's Alcohol Beverage Control Bureau. Both are named in the lawsuit. ISP declined to comment on the pending litigation. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
If you're a parent of an SPS student, you probably got one of these in the mail recently. It's a pandemic EBT card. We have heard from parents wondering what the card is for and why they got it. Let's verify. Our sources are Nora West with the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services and Spokane Public Schools. Let's start with the biggest question. Are these benefits real?
These are real benefits, yes. These are food benefits intended for kids who were impacted by the COVID pandemic.
The cards have $120 on them and can be used to purchase food.
Once you set up the PIN, you're free to use those cards at any grocery store that accepts EBT cards, and you can use them just like a debit card.
The funds are part of the Summer P-EBT program, which helps keep kids fed during summer break.
So this is one way that we're helping ensure students and children have access to healthy, nutritious food during the summer months.
So why did every Spokane student receive the benefits? SPS first emailed families back in May with details about the program. The district noted, all SPS families will receive them regardless of income based on SPS being part of the community eligibility provision, which allows SPS to offer free breakfast and lunch to all enrolled students.
If the family doesn't feel like they need it, we would encourage people to use it just the same. They cannot be donated. They're not intended for use outside of the person on the card. But we encourage people to use the card to buy groceries where they usually would, participate in the farmers market, and help the community economy as well.
Hi, we're the Whimsical Pig, and this is how you find us. I'm Rachel. I'm the property manager here at the Whimsical Pig Apartments. We are here just to celebrate all the amazing work that has been put into renovating our whole property. Our clubhouse was just renovated. We also had a new pig statue installed at the front of the property.
I'm Bill Simmons.
And I'm Karma Simmons.
We've been producing sculptures for Fritz's Properties over the last 4 or 5 years. And this is, I think, the 5th one that we've done.
The owner of the land was a pig farmer. We actually have an old picture somewhere of the pig farm that was here. And he and the owner of the property were really good friends. When it was time for him to sell it, he was heartbroken by it. He loved his pig farm, didn't want to let go of it. So to my understanding, there was an agreement that was kind of made that if he sold it, the name stayed with it. So hence Whimsical Pig.
We actually tried to be pretty honest to the original drawings that were done 30 years ago. I've been at this for 30 plus years, and Karma's been with me 25 of them, so we've been at it for quite a while.
1, 2, 3. I think we just want people to have fun. I think that's the thing. You recognize art and it just brings joy to you, and a whimsical pig is fun.
We just hope people enjoy it.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.